Welcome to Tammy's Rippin' Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make an easy everyday sourdough, no kneading and no mess. I would like to let you know too that this is the beginning of my sourdough journey. I've only made probably about 10 loaves of sourdough, and some have been great and some have been not so great. But I would like to say too that since I started making it, my starter is much better now. And I'm having much better luck with the loaves. So it started out good when I first started making it, and then I think my starter must have been not quite up to par, and so my bread started to not look so good, so I did change it up and my starter is much better now. I did find Ellie's Everyday Sourdough channel, and it helped me out a lot. So I hope this helps you. Like I said, I'm not an expert in any way, and I'm just showing you how a beginner can start, and it can be a lot easier than some of the videos and some of the channels that I've watched. So I hope this helps you, and thanks for watching. So here I'm showing you everything that you will need to make your first loaf of sourdough. I will leave it all in the description box below along with the recipe. Okay, so once you have all your ingredients ready to go, you can start adding your flour into your bowl. Here I've got 2 cups of white flour and 1 cup of whole wheat, and then just a teaspoon of salt. And then you're going to mix it really well, making sure the salt's all combined with the flour. And once that's all mixed well, just make a hole in the center of your flour. And now it'll be time to add your starter. My starter has doubled in size. I just took it out of the fridge and let it sit on the counter for a few minutes. So you'll want to add about a half a cup to a cup of starter, leaving about 2 tablespoons in your jar to make your next starter. So as you can see, there isn't a lot left in the jar. A couple tablespoons will be great. And now you can add your water in. Put about 1 cup to 1 1/4 at first, and then just see if you need more. I ended up using about 1 1/2 cups, and my dough may have been a little bit too sticky. And you're going to want to just keep mixing and stirring until it's well combined. So just keep stirring until it's well combined. I probably wouldn't add quite the 1.5 cups, so that last little bit I should have tamed it back a bit, but that's okay. And you can also mix this with a knife. I know Ellie on her channel, she does it with a knife at this point, just to make sure the starter's all really well combined in the flour, but it seemed to work fine just using a spatula for me. So it's whatever you prefer. And I just try and clean up the sides of the bowl too as I go. And so now I'm just going to cover this with a plate, and I'll come back in about 30 to 40 minutes and give it another stretch and fold. Okay, so it's been about 40 minutes, and I'm just going to take my spatula and stretch and fold just a few times. A few turns around the bowl. You could already see there how the dough is getting a nice rise. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to take the plate and cover it again, and I'll let it sit for another 30 minutes or so. So I did do the starter earlier, but then I realized I didn't add quite enough flour. So here I'm going to add about 70 to 80 grams of flour and water. So about 5 tablespoons there of flour in total, and then you're going to want to top it with some water. And it's okay if the batter is a little bit thinner. So you'll see there it is a little runnier, and that's a good thing. It doesn't have to be super thick. Well, you want lots of little bubbles, and it doesn't have to be too dense, so almost like a runny pancake batter. And then you'll just want to pop the lid on. You don't need to seal it with the screw top, just place the other lid on, and then you'll set it beside your dough for the day, and then put it in the fridge once you're ready to put your bread in the oven. It is a good idea to scrape down the sides. I know this jar doesn't look too clean. Next time I will be putting it in a clean jar. And I do like to mark the jar too, just so I know if it is changing at all. You will be able to see though the bubbles. You don't necessarily have to mark it, but I like to. So it's at another 30 minutes or so, and now I'm going to do another stretch and fold in the bowl. Don't have to take it out, just do it right in the bowl. And yeah, my spatula had dough on it from before, a few minutes before, so it's not a big deal. And just go along. Don't want to press out too much of the air, just gently fold it in here. Just be gentle. And so now it's time to put the plate on for the final rise. So you can see here that the starter has almost doubled in size. It's got some nice bubbles going on the top there. Be a great starter for the next loaf. It's a nice texture. It's almost a little too thick. I know Ellie says it can be a little runnier, but I'm still learning. Like I said, I am not an expert, but this seemed to work, and we'll see how that makes the next loaf. It's all an experiment, and it's all fun to me. And so that will go in the fridge until next time. Now for the exciting part. Look how nice it's risen. So now you're just going to gently fold it in. Just turn and fold. You just want to get the shape, basically the shape that you're going to want to bake this, and I'm going to just be putting it back in this bowl once I get it on the parchment. So you'll see how long I do this. You don't want to do it too long. You don't want to take out too much of the air. Just be gentle with it. You'll just get to know, all doughs, and I think all loaves can be different. So you'll see, how I did it and how it turned out. And there we go. So now it's going to sit for another 10 minutes or so. At this point, if you had a Banneton, you'd put it in a floured Banneton, which you see in lots of videos. However, I didn't have a Banneton. So when I came across this, just using parchment paper and my bowl, I was so excited. And I also don't have a Dutch oven. So that made it even better for me because, I didn't have those options, yet I made it work. So that's what I hope to show you that you can do here too. So here I've got my parchment. I did do 2 pieces because my one piece wasn't quite wide enough, I didn't think. So, and you can't see here, but I am spraying the paper with water with my spray bottle. Well, I have a sprayer in a jar, and my paper started to curl up, so kind of panicked and just wanted to get the bread onto the parchment. But I did just spray the parchment paper fully. And now I'm going to just stretch and fold the dough again. And then it'll be time to just roll it, basically fold it out onto your parchment paper. And when I did that, I didn't realize you can't quite see how I was getting out, but you just basically let it roll out of the bowl, really gentle. And you can see here too that the dough has gotten a lot more stiff looking. Not quite as loose as it was before. It's holding its shape a little better. As you could see, the more I was working it there, it was getting a little sticky, so I thought it's time I better just get it onto the parchment. And of course, when you put it onto the parchment, the bottom will end up being the top, if you know what I mean. Top will be the bottom, just because when you take it out of the bowl. So then wet your hands if you need to, and then just slightly fold in the bottom edges, just to tuck it all in. That's what I did. Just wet your hands and it won't be too sticky. At this point, the parchment is very wet, and I'm just going to lift it up and plop it back in the bowl. And then you're going to want to push your edges of the parchment away from the bread. Probably give it another little spray. So just tuck it, so it doesn't make any creases on the edge of your bread. Take your spatula if you need to, and just push down the edges to make them flat against your bowl. So just go around and do that until the parchment's away from the bread and just along the sides of the bowl. And now you can let it sit for up to an hour. I let mine sit about 40 minutes. And now it's ready to go. At this point, you will have wanted to preheated your oven to 480 degrees Fahrenheit. That would be about 250 Celsius. A very important part I neglected to tell you, you will want to put your pan and the pan that you have water in the oven while you're preheating it. So this pan is super hot, just like you would if you had a Dutch oven, you would preheat that. So we just have the pan, and the water in the pan is also on the stove, and I'll put that back on, but it has preheated. Just lift out your dough with your parchment. And now you're going to want to take your knife or a blade. Hopefully you have a sharper blade than I did. I decided to use a different knife than I ever have, and it didn't work out that well, that I thought anyway, but the loaf turned out great, you'll see. You're gonna want to, you can wet your hands here too, just to make sure that none of the parchment is sticking. Just do whatever you have to do there to keep the parchment away from the dough. And now you're going to take your knife or your blade and score your loaf the way you like it. You'll see here I struggled a bit and I almost gave up, but never give up. It always will work out. And that's what I learned here. As I scored and my knife wasn't going, the dough was literally falling back together. I almost put my dough back in my bowl. So never do that. Just know that it will work out exactly the way it's supposed to. So I continue just scoring, but it really shouldn't take this much work. You know what? I just wanted to show you what a beginner does, and you know what? It always works out in the end. So this is what I did. See, I even grabbed another knife. I thought, okay, if I try another knife, it might work better. But this is just the effects of, or I guess the effects of me adding just a little bit too much water. That's okay though. So into the oven it will go. I'll put the pan of water right beside it on the tray, and also give the oven a really good spray. Yeah, spray down the bread and the whole oven with your water bottle, and then close the door. And this is about halfway through, about 30 minutes. All right, so it's time to take out the water and also turn down the temperature. You will want to turn that down to 430 degrees Fahrenheit, about 220 Celsius. My oven seemed extra hot this day, but try those temps and just see how they work for you. I did end up taking it out of the oven a little before the 20 minutes was up. And there you go, there's the beautiful loaf of sourdough. Started in the bowl, went on the parchment paper onto the pan, nice and easy. And as you can see here, it's really nice to cut. It's probably one of my nicest loaves that I was cutting. It still was a little bit fresh, so you know, if you can wait, it's probably best, but I just wanted to get the video done and show you what it did look like inside here. So I must say every loaf I've made so far has been an adventure, and like I say, I'm just a beginner. So, you know, hope you give this a try and realize that anyone can do it, and you don't need a lot of special tools to get it done. I know I've watched a lot of videos and I thought I needed certain items before I got started, but as you can see, you can do it with very few supplies and ingredients. So hope you give it a try. I hope this video did give you some incentive to start your own sourdough. It is a lot of fun, and I do hope you learned a little bit from this video, and let me know if you give it a try. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.